Welcome to another deep dive, folks. Every business, no matter how big or small, faces a challenge. And it's something we're going to really dig into today. It's something that can make or break a business, whether it's like your favorite little corner bakery
Right.
or, a huge global tech company.
Yeah.
We're talking about churn.
Exactly. Churn, both customer churn and employee churn. It's a biggie, and we're going to break it down, what it is, why it's so important for a business to keep an eye on, and some of the really cool ways technology like AI is being used to really tackle it head on.
It's like we're putting a puzzle together today.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
We've got these different
Yeah.
pieces of information,
Yeah.
right? Some explaining the basics, some giving us like a real world example to show just how impactful churn can be, and then even a story about a company that actually managed to use some of these ideas to make things better.
Mm-hmm. A
Yeah.
success story. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're going to try to connect all these pieces for you in a way that makes sense, in a way that you can actually use to understand how businesses tick. Where do we even begin with something like churn?
Well, it sounds kind of technical, right? But at its heart, churn is simply the rate at which a business loses its customers
Mm-hmm.
or its employees.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's about people leaving.
And it's easy to picture that, right? Think about that corner bakery we mentioned.
Yeah.
Customer churn is like, all those regulars, people who come in every day, maybe for their morning coffee or their lunch.
Right. Familiar faces.
Yeah, and then they just poof, disappear,
They stop showing up.
gone. And then on the flip side, you have employee churn, which is like when your favorite barista, the one who always knows your order,
Who knows your name?
exactly, decides to move on to a new job.
Yeah. And it's interesting because while losing one customer or one employee might not feel like a big deal at the time, especially for a larger company,
Right.
the information we've looked at really emphasizes that these little losses, when they start to add up,
Yeah.
it can really start to impact a business's bottom line.
It's like death by a thousand cuts, almost.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's break it down a bit more.
Okay.
Focusing on the customer side first.
Right.
Our sources are saying that when a customer walks away, it's not just about that one lost sale,
No.
You're
Yeah.
losing out on all their future business.
Exactly.
And then you have to think about the cost of attracting new customers.
Which, as our sources point out, is significantly higher than the cost of keeping your existing customers happy.
Way higher. And then there's the whole reputation thing, right? If a business is constantly losing customers, it can send up a red flag.
A warning signal.
Yeah, like something's not quite right there.
Absolutely. And to illustrate that point, think back to our cafe example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they start the month with 100 regular customers. Seems pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But if by the end of the month, 10 of them have stopped coming in, that's a 10% customer churn rate.
10%?
Yeah, and now imagine that happening month after month. You can see how those seemingly small losses
Yeah.
can quickly turn into a major drain on the business.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about the employee side of things? What happens when employees decide to leave?
Well, right off the bat, you have the costs of replacing them, recruitment, training new staff, getting them up to speed.
And all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But what about some of the less obvious impacts of employee churn?
You mean like beyond the financial stuff?
Exactly.
Well, I guess if you're constantly training new people, productivity probably takes a hit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes time for new team members to get up to speed and work efficiently.
And I imagine that could also affect the quality of service that customers receive, right?
Yeah.
If you have a team that's constantly changing, maybe with less experienced people filling those gaps,
Exactly.
it's not going to be as smooth an experience for the customer.
It can lead to inconsistencies, longer wait times, those sorts of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to put this into perspective, let's go back to our cafe example.
Okay.
Let's say they've got 10 baristas working there. If 2 of them quit within a month,
Mm-hmm.
that's a 20% employee churn rate.
20%. And,
Yeah.
For a small team like that kind of turnover can really disrupt the whole dynamic.
Totally. Okay, so we've established what churn is,
Right.
why it's so important for businesses to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not at all.
There are things that businesses can do, and some of them are actually really cool and innovative, thanks to things like artificial intelligence.
Right. AI is really changing the game when it comes to managing churn.
So what's the deal with AI and churn?
Well, our information highlights three main ways AI is proving super helpful.
Okay.
The first one is through something called predictive analytics.
Predictive analytics. That sounds a little futuristic almost.
It does a bit, right? Like something out of Minority Report or something. But basically, AI can sift through huge amounts of data
Wow.
and find patterns that we humans might miss.
Yeah.
And based on those patterns, it can actually predict which customers or employees might be thinking of leaving in the future.
So it's like having a crystal ball that shows you who's at risk of churning.
In a way, yeah. It's not magic, obviously. It's all data-driven.
Right.
But it's pretty powerful stuff.
Right.
And the beauty of it is that if you can identify those at-risk customers or employees early on, you can actually take steps to try and keep them, to re-engage them.
So you're not just reacting to people leaving, you're trying to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Exactly.
That's really smart. And the second way AI can help, according to our sources, is through something called personalized engagement.
Right, personalization. This is huge, and it makes so much sense, really. People want to feel like they're more than just a number.
Yeah, for sure.
And AI can help businesses create much more tailored interactions with both customers and employees.
So it's like instead of sending out generic emails or offering the same thing to everyone,
Yeah.
you're using AI to make those interactions feel more personal, more relevant.
Exactly. Like for a customer, it could be AI suggesting products or services that they genuinely find useful based on their past behavior or preferences.
Or like for an employee, it could be AI suggesting specific training or development opportunities that align with their career goals.
Exactly. It's about showing people that you see them as individuals, that you value them. And that kind of personalization can go a long way in building loyalty.
Makes people feel appreciated, right?
It does. And then the third area where AI is making a real difference is in something we've touched on already: operational efficiency.
Right, making things run more smoothly.
Our sources point out that AI can automate a lot of those routine tasks, those kind of administrative things that can bog people down.
Oh yeah, all that paperwork and stuff.
Exactly. And by automating those things, businesses can free up their employees to focus on more meaningful work, the kind of work that makes them feel engaged and valued.
So on the employee side, it's about reducing burnout
Yeah.
and making the work experience more enjoyable.
Exactly. And when employees are happier, they're less likely to look for jobs elsewhere.
They're more likely to stick around.
Exactly. And on the customer side, AI-powered efficiency can lead to faster response times, quicker resolutions to problems, that kind of thing, which ultimately leads to a better overall customer experience.
Makes things smoother and more satisfying for everyone.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so those are the three main ways AI can help: predictive analytics, personalized engagement, and operational efficiency. But what about the actual results?
Well, that's the really exciting part. Our sources provide some really compelling numbers.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so get this. Even a small 5% reduction in customer churn
5%.
can lead to a massive increase in profit. We're talking up to 95%.
95%, that's insane.
It is, right. It really highlights the power of customer retention.
It's way more profitable to keep your existing customers happy
Yeah.
than to constantly be chasing after new ones.
Absolutely. And it's not just about increased revenue. Reducing churn also means saving money.
How so?
Well, think about all the money businesses spend on acquiring new customers or recruiting and training new employees. Those costs can be significant.
They add up quickly.
Right. But if you can lower your churn rate, you're automatically spending less on those things.
Because you're not constantly having to replace people who are leaving.
Exactly. It's like plugging a leak in your finances.
And then there's the time-saving aspect.
Oh, yeah. Time is money, right?
For sure. The sources mention that AI can analyze all those complex factors that contribute to churn much faster than traditional methods.
Much faster.
So businesses can actually get insights and take action much more quickly.
Exactly. They can move from reacting to churn after it happens to actually preventing it.
Okay, so we've got all this theory about AI and churn, but how does it actually work in practice?
Well, for that, our sources provide a really cool case study.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
It involves a company called Findability Sciences and a large multinational company based in Japan.
Okay.
And this company was really struggling with employee churn.
even though they were already investing in things like employee development,
Yeah, mentorship programs, all that stuff.
all that good stuff. But it wasn't enough.
It wasn't. They were putting resources into it, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted.
They were still losing people.
Exactly. So they decided to team up with Findability Sciences, who implemented this really sophisticated AI-powered predictive model.
So this model was basically designed to figure out why employees were leaving
Yeah.
and who might be at risk of leaving in the future.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is the amount of data this model was able to analyze.
Like what kind of data?
Well, everything from employee performance reviews to their relationships with their supervisors, to feedback from managers, assessment data, even their daily work patterns. It was a really comprehensive view of the employee experience.
Wow, that's a lot of information.
It is.
Yeah.
But by bringing all that data together and using AI algorithms to analyze it, the company was able to do something they couldn't do before. Accurately predict which employees were most likely to leave.
That's incredible. So they basically had a heads up about who might be on their way out.
Exactly. And with that knowledge, they could actually take proactive steps to try and keep those employees.
So what did they do?
Well, according to the sources, they used this information to refine their mentorship programs. So instead of offering the same mentorship to everyone, they could tailor it to the specific needs and concerns of those employees who were identified as high risk.
It's like a personalized approach to mentorship.
Exactly. And the results were really impressive.
Okay, what happened?
Well, the company saw improvements in how they allocated talent, a significant reduction in overall employee turnover, and ultimately a more stable and engaged workforce.
So this case study really shows that AI can be a powerful tool for tackling churn.
It does. It shows that by using data and AI, businesses can gain a much deeper understanding of why people leave. And then use that understanding to create a more supportive and engaging environment.
So to kind of wrap things up here, it's clear that churn, whether it's customers choosing to go elsewhere or valuable employees moving on to new opportunities, is a really important issue for any business.
Absolutely. It can have a huge impact on a company's success.
And what we've learned today is that AI is offering some incredible tools to not just understand churn, but to actually predict it and even prevent it.
And the potential benefits, both financial and operational, are significant.
Like that 95% potential increase in profit from just a 5% reduction in customer churn.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
And then there's the real-world success of companies like Findability Sciences, who are using AI to help businesses create a more stable and engaged workforce.
That's really inspiring stuff.
It is. So as we leave you today, we want you to think about this. What are some of the signs of churn that you might be seeing in your own life?
Good question.
Maybe in your workplace, maybe in your community groups, even in your personal relationships. And how could a more data-driven, proactive approach help you create stronger, more lasting connections?
It's all about understanding those underlying patterns, seeing those early warning signs, and then taking steps to address them.
Food for thought, right? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See ya.